They've gotten half the money that after we talked over, they should have gone. But it's too late for us to get involved. This management company, they just did so much more damage to this insured than actually good.
Mm-hmm.
But hard to explain to someone. And now they're going to go to an attorney and pay. They didn't want they had a public adjuster in the beginning that told them, this is our fee, which a public adjuster fee, by the way, is 10% is usually the starting fee, might go up to 15, 20, depending on the case. But 10% is usually very normal. So this client actually did have a public adjuster in the beginning, and the insured didn't want to, or the management company told the insured, we don't want to pay, we'll handle it for you. Well, now a year later, they got to go to an attorney who's saying 35%. And they've spent a year with no income on their property, and property is still in dismay.
I'm your host, Vinki Loomba, a commercial real estate investor. And today I have a good friend, Andrzej Gurczak, with me. Welcome to the Real Estate Show, Andy.
Thank you, Vinki.
A little bit about Andy. Andy is a founder of All City Adjusting, a licensed public adjusting firm. Andy immigrated to US from Poland with his family at the age of 9. After working in the construction industry, more specifically fire restoration, Andy discovered his true calling, public adjusting. Andy grew up with a family motto: if you're going to do something, do it right. Otherwise, don't do it at all. Oh, I love that. And he carries that sentiment into his business. Over the last decade, Andy has not only protected thousands of people from being defrauded, but also helped them receive more money than what the insurance initially offered. Andy works hard to make sure his clients get what they truly deserve from their claims. Awesome. I love that bio. And today our topic of discussion is who benefits using public adjuster. So welcome, Andy. First of all, I'm so excited to have you with me. I'm going to start with your background. If you can briefly share your background with me and tell us, how did you become who you are today?
Yeah, thank you, Vinki. So touching base on that, on what you just said, started in sales, had my own construction company, was in construction, fire restoration. I met a PA that was in the industry actually for 40 years that was able to take me under his wing and teach me everything. So I got 40 years of experience taught to me in about 2-3 years. And then we went on and we opened up our own company and we built it on where now we're in 22 or 23 states, focusing on large loss. Majority of our clients are going to be, investors, landlords, business owners. And that's kind of how we got to, short story of how we got to today.
Great. Awesome. So can you explain it to me what public adjuster is and how is it different from the insurance adjuster?
Correct. So the insurance adjuster, whether it's their staff or they're independent or anyone else that's working for the insurance, is working for the insurance company, right? They're representing the insurance. The insurance is the one that's paying his bills, his bonuses, all the incentives, and he's the one that's told what he can't pay for and what he can't do. Whereas a public adjuster is a private party. So we are only there to represent the insured against the insurance company to make sure that the claim not only gets handled fairly, quickly, but also that we maximize the claim in all aspects of coverages.
But what made you decide that you wanted to be a public adjuster?
Yeah, so I saw being in the restoration industry and working with other public adjusters and seeing Herb was the one I mentioned. Herb Johnson was the public adjuster that I met that introduced me to the business. I started getting more intrigued in, I've always been in construction. I really like this, the policy interpretation and actually maximizing the claim and the negotiations and all the other aspects. But I started doing research, and then finally Herb decided that he could work with me and teach me everything. So was more intrigued in that part than the construction aspect of it. But having the construction background made everything 10 times easier.
Yeah, you can understand things a little bit better, right?
When you meet with an adjuster from the insurance company and, he explains, well, we can't pay for this, or we don't do this, or I don't know this, to me, a house, commercial house, we're doing a large church loss right now. We've seen all that. I've seen all aspects of construction. So I know what needs to be done to make sure that it's done the right way and it's done the same way it was before the loss.
So what kind of clients do you have? Is it like mostly real estate, commercial real estate related, or anybody?
So we switched a couple of years ago. We switched our focus to, we still do residential losses, but more large loss, more large scale, whether it's a fire or like a large water loss. And then majority of the clients now have been landlords, investors are calling us, business owners. We have a bishop or a priest owns over 10 churches in his portfolio. He goes from these churches, and one of his churches actually caught on fire. So that's kind of, anyone, again, that owns a building, whether he's a landlord, the investor in it, or even, the business owner.
Hey, so let's talk about the commercial real estate. What are some of the common type of claims that you have seen so far in the commercial real estate?
In commercial, the most common that you're going to see, and most even your listeners would be kind of familiar with, would be with storm damage. Mm-hmm. So roofing claims, hail, wind, whether it's a flat roof, it's a shingle roof, that would be the most common. And then water losses, I think, would come after that, whether it's a pipe burst, flood, which that's usually, separate policy, that's flood insurance. And then the least common would be fires, which we actually handle the most probably.
So in these kind of claims, how do you determine the value of a claim? Let's say if it's a roof related, because that's pretty common in Texas, right? In the Dallas area.
Yes, very. In Dallas especially. I think Dallas, I don't know if Dallas or around that area just got hit with hail. So they're always getting large hail. We estimate, because we use a software called Xactimate, which is actually the same software the insurance companies use. So we're on the same level playing field when it comes to using the software or having the same software. Where we differentiate is we have estimators that's been doing this for years. One of our main estimators actually has been in the industry for 20 years, writing large losses for insurance companies. So we kind of have the best people writing our estimates, knowing the software, and they're certified at the highest level. So when we put our estimates together, there's nothing missed. I mean, we include every inch, every penny that's got to be in to make sure that our client is put back to that same condition they were before the loss.
But you said you guys are using the same software, like the
Correct.
Insurance adjuster. So how do you differentiate your work than them?
Correct. So the software is it's a software, it's a guideline. But who's ever using it is in control of how they put everything together, right? Because we can look at the same home and you write an estimate, we write an estimate. The insurance company's estimate is 20,000, ours is 40. Using the same software, how is that, right? It's just knowing what items are supposed to be included, knowing construction, and then knowing how what that system pays for and what it doesn't. So there's just a lot of, it's the user that's using it, not the program itself.
So yours is more like client favoring, and the insurers is like more like insurance companies favoring claim, right? Or
correct, or not knowing, or not knowing the building, what they're estimating, how to estimate it properly. You have a 20-year-old that will go into a home that just burnt down, or the 3 floors flooded, and they're just looking at it and saying, okay, just remove and replace some drywall, replace some floors. But now there's electrical, there's a subfloor, there's all these other things that go into play that system, if you have to know how to use it and operate it, include it. And the insurance adjusters get paid, especially now with independent adjusters, meaning they're like third party, they get paid when the estimate's done. So whether they write for, $500 or $1,000, their fee is going to be around the same. So the quicker they write it, the quicker they get paid, and the quicker they're on to the next job.
So, but how do you justify your claim against theirs? Like you say, their claim could be 20,000, you could be 40,000. There's a huge delta. So how do you mitigate some of those?
Based on the documentation and the supportive documents we provide. Also, when we go in, we document very detailed with photos and videos and explanations and third party even reports to back up our findings. So the system that we use as well, the Xactimate system that we use, that the insurance companies use, if you know how to use it, it helps document and it helps support a lot of the damage as well, if you know how to use it properly.
And can you also add the things that could go wrong when they're trying to fix it and then claim for those too? Like you were saying electrical earlier, if there's a water damage when you're trying to fix it or just need to break down a wall or something, there might be something else that you will touch that could go wrong at that time. So can you include that in the initial claim, or do you have to do another review or another reading on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, so when we settle the claim, let's say it's for 10,000, that it's not end of all, right? Because when the insurance starts the repairs and they find more, or then there's code upgrades, we would come in and we would supplement and write more and then submit that. So it's not the end. And because you can only see so much, right? Once the repairs start, and let's just say now the city comes in and says, Vinki, you need to upgrade all this electrical because of this. Well, now we have to build a supplement on, for code upgrades.
So it's an open-ended claim till you're
Correct.
done with it. So you can keep on adding to it. So there is no any kind of limitations or anything. Okay.
There is.
Only this much. There is.
Usually you have 1 year to 2 years from the date of loss to rebuild, depending on the policy, the state. It's usually 1 year to 2 years. So if the date of loss happened today, you'd have a year or 2 years from today to put everything back or, to file any supplements within that time. No, you would start the repairs today. In 6 months, you would call us and say, we took down all the walls. We had to redo all the electrical because the city they made us upgrade all the windows. We found this other damage. We would just come in, document it all, put it back into our system, estimate it, document it, and present it to the insurance.
So is this something that has been in the insurance already, that when you open a claim, you can have the limitation of 1 year or 2 years? Like when we are getting the insurance at that time, we have to specify that we should know something about early.
I mean, that's something that would an agent should make an insured aware of. They usually don't. People don't actually find out until something happens. And that's when we find out, hey, in your policy, just so you're aware, you have a year from date of loss to put everything back together.
Well, that's a good one. Actually, let's talk about that insurance policy since we are talking about this subject. So when we are trying to get the insurance policy at that time, what are some of the important things we should keep in mind that, we do not run into any issues later on, like when we're filing a claim or anything like that?
So one of the things I see all the time is how many properties are underinsured. And the reason fact is when they insure these properties, they use computer software. So if a computer software says, Vinki, your home is in this neighborhood and the rebuild cost is $200,000, that's based basically on the value of where the building's at and everything else. But if you take that same home and you take it to a really high-end neighborhood, well, that value of rebuild might go up twice. But it's the same home. It's going to take the same amount of money to rebuild. Doesn't matter if it's in place A or place B. If you follow me, meaning so people have to understand, and they have to actually get something we would recommend is either getting an estimate from a contractor or getting an appraisal value on what is the rebuild cost of our building. Because again, the repair value, or what they're saying is going to be the replacement cost, might be much less than what it's going to take to get this building back up if it has a total fire or total loss.
So let me ask you here, how do you determine the value of a claim for any property, whether you're doing the commercial or real estate, because the process should be the same, right?
How do we determine the value, like the estimate of the damages?
Right. Yeah, as an adjuster.
Correct. Using our software, using our documents, so using the Xactimate software, using our measurement software, using our tools, that's how we build our estimate, determine the amount of damage. Now, that's for the structure. If there's personal property, we actually have a team that inventories that part. If you have business interruption, we have a team that handles that part. There's different aspects of a claim, especially when you get into commercial.
So isn't there are multiple online tools available to kind of estimate or guesstimate your loss? How accurate are those compared to the software that you use?
So, Vinki, we've never used any of those softwares. I'm not even aware that there is ones like that. You can't estimate damage or determine the value of the damage until you actually go see it, feel it, and see every corner of it. that's really the most accurate way. Insurance companies are using drones to, inspect roofs, and you can see maybe larger damage if it's just fresh hail, it goes 2 inch or something. But other than that, you have to be on site physically and actually look at the damage.
I think that's just like a kind of gimmick to get somebody in the door, right? So they say, okay, put your information in. I will tell you how much it's going to cost you roughly. And after that, you can have the adjuster in or somebody in to check it out. Maybe that's what it is. So
maybe we have seen a lot of websites now that are kind of marketing agencies. And what they're trying to do is just get people in the door, and then they'll siphon your information and send it to a public adjuster or send it to another company to sell that lead. So that we have seen that. So that might be part of it.
Yeah, that could be it. So how do you connect with these people? Or, why would somebody hire you? Because there is going to be some fee associated with that versus working with insurance adjuster. We don't have to pay anything. So how do you defend yourself, or how do you position yourself?
Good question. The value that you get compared to the fee that you pay is like having a good accountant or anything else on your team. When you have a public adjuster that's good, the value that he's going to bring, or that company will bring in the end, not in just the amount of time you've saved, all the obstacles you avoided, the amount of money you recover in all your coverages is just so much greater than if you didn't have that public adjuster. Because that's the end goal, that our clients are left with so much money. Even after paying us, they could have doubled our fee and still had money left over to put their property back, and now have more money left over to buy more properties.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, we can give to, any of your listeners want to list, could talk to all our clients that really, they got these settlements and they rebuilt the properties for half the amount, because again, what you're owed is what you're owed. What you end up, that actual cash value check, if it's 200,000, but you've only, your rebuild cost was 100, that actual cash value got paid because that's what you were owed. So.
Yeah, because sometimes operators think that they are doing the property management or the asset management, they know inside out everything. So they can just do it themselves versus hiring a public adjuster. That's the reason I asked you that question, how would you position yourself or show them your value, what value you bring on the table?
And Vinki, this is in commercial real estate, some people are like, well, I want to do it myself, or I don't want to account, I'm going to do my own. There's just those people that want to do everything themselves. That's fine. If you're an investor that actually wants to grow his portfolio and actually be a big investor and own properties, you can't do everything on your own. That's why you build a team around you. Having a public adjuster is just like having a good property manager, a good contractor. It's someone that's in your back pocket. Hey, we had something happen. Go check this out. Can we file a claim? I mean, that's what we do for our clients. But doing it on your own is scary. I mean, we literally just took a call from a management company that's been it was in Chicago, trying to handle a claim for their client for a year. And they've gotten half the money that after we talked over, they should have gotten. But it's too late for us to get involved. This management company, they just did so much more damage to this insured than actually good. But hard to explain to someone. And now they're going to go to an attorney and pay. They didn't want they had a public adjuster in the beginning that told them, this is our fee, which a public adjuster fee, by the way, is 10% is usually the starting fee, might go up to 15, 20, depending on the case, but 10% is usually very normal. So this client actually did have a public adjuster in the beginning, and the insured didn't want to, or the management company told the insured, we don't want to pay, we'll handle it for you. Well, now a year later, they got to go to an attorney who's saying 35%. And they've spent a year with no income on their property, and property is still in dismay. Wow.
So share with me one more case study, kind of end to end, for the commercial real estate claim, that you worked on, that worked for you. And it was favorable for the operator who hired you.
Correct. Yeah. We just finished one where it was it's a big office building, and it was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. There was a couple of shingles missing. We ended up fighting it. It took a couple of months, but we ended up getting the whole roof replaced. Even though that roof was pretty new, we actually knew that shingle technically was no longer manufactured. It was a discontinued shingle. So we were able to make the fight of, hey, you can't put this roof back with any other material. because the material is no longer, it's obsolete. Correct. So we ended up getting the client a full roof replacement. So.
Wow. Is it a lot of work when you're just calling back and forth the insurance company and then trying to get the claim settled?
It's time consuming, but we have a team. We're not just a mom and pop PA firm. We have our license, and I think now we're in 22 or 23 states. And we have a team in-house that makes those calls every day, emails, those follow-ups with the adjusters. Because if you don't, the claim is going to sit there for months and months and months. So you want to keep moving that claim forward so you get a resolution as quickly as possible.
So let me ask you this. What advice do you have for the property owners looking to mitigate risk and protect their assets before even the loss occurs?
Correct. So call a public adjuster. If you don't have one on your team, have a good one. If you have a good agent, that's great. But a public adjuster, like what we do for our clients, is we'll review their policies based on their buildings and make sure that they don't have any lapse in coverage or there's no deficiencies or any other, what we're seeing now, Vinki, what property owners should be aware of is the not occupied clause. It's basically if one of your units is unoccupied at the time of something happening, your loss coverage, your loss amount is less, is 60% less than it should be. Meaning if you had a fire and you have 4 units, 1 unit was vacant, which we have a situation like this, they're trying to take the total loss and cut it by 60%.
Oh.
Think about that, because 1 unit was vacant because it was waiting for a new tenant. How can there's no way you can avoid that because you have tenant turnover all the time. Sometimes you're waiting for a new tenant. We have rentals myself. So you're waiting for a tenant for a month, for 2, for a time, or maybe you're remodeling it. Now, all of a sudden, you had a fire and your coverage is slashed by 60%. So on a $200,000 loss, you're 60% less.
Wow.
And people don't even know. And it's in your policy.
Oh.
So that's what I'm saying. These little things, agents they just insure you and you look at your premium and say, well, that's expensive. Can we shop around? Well, let me change some stuff in coverage. Okay. And all of a sudden they come with a premium that you like. And you save a couple hundred, and this is a yearly fee, you save a couple hundred. Now, if something happens, and it will happen, it's just a matter of time when something happens, especially with property owners, with investors. And now your coverage is slashed by half, or you get denied because you didn't do something properly.
Wow. But how do you ensure that you're properly covered by the policy?
You have to read the policy.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's so many pages, right? So something in the gray or very small that you miss it, and later on they might come back and say, "Oh, you missed it."
But that's why having a public adjuster on your team to review your policies for you. Correct. We look at policies all the time, so we interpret policies. So we know what page to look at, what we're looking at to see, what are the exclusion, what's in this policy that can harm our clients in the future. And if we look at a building, we can always say, hey, there's this coverage missing, this coverage missing. Be aware that if this happens, you're not covered for this. So we have a situation where this was a while ago where an investor was their first property. So they bought a duplex and they lived in one of the units, and then they rented the other unit. It was a regular homeowner's policy. Mm-hmm. When they moved out, they never changed their policy.
Oh.
So it was still a homeowner's, and the agent said, hey, don't worry about it. You're good. But you're not good. We got, we were able to kind of maneuver. Everything was fine. This was a small loss. But if a fire happened or it was a larger loss, that would be a denied claim.
Mm. So are there any situations where it may not be beneficial to use a public adjuster, or do you need it all the time?
An honest public adjuster will tell you that, if you called and said, Andy, we have this, we had a sewer backup at one of our properties. Okay, can you send me the policy? Let me take a look at it real quick. And I see, Vinki, you only have 5,000 coverage or 10,000 coverage. Looking at your basement, this is a total loss. There's no need for a PA. They're just going to pay the max because it's way over that max amount. Mm-hmm. So there is situations. So a good PA company will tell you and help you. There's no reason. We tell all our clients all the time, if we have to withdraw or say, let's not file it, a good PA will tell you when you don't need their assistance.
Oh, okay. But you can have them on your payroll to begin with. Like you were saying, you can read the policy and you can guide the operators before anything happens. So you're prepared for something, unforeseen that could happen.
So we're not on anyone's payroll. Obviously, we get percentages of the claims that we settle. But because we work with so many investors and so many landlords and business owners, we ask them and they send us policies all the time to look over. And we do it just because this is how we build our network. And that way we know that if something does happen, that client most likely will call us because again, we're there in the beginning, even before anything happens. And maybe nothing will ever happen. Mm-hmm. But it takes us a couple of minutes to look and dissect the policy and give you some feedback.
So let me ask you this. When do people hire you?
The best time to hire a PA, and like we just had two investors that called us with two fires. They knew about us. They've worked with us before on smaller losses. They called us the day the fire happened. The one was the next day. So we got involved right away. And we're handling everything from the first steps. But most new people that never had investors, never had a loss, will call us sometimes when it's too late or when it's been, hey, we've been denied, or hey, we've been investigated for 6 months. We don't know what's going on. And they usually call us when it's kind of the claim has progressed and they're starting to see that their adjuster is not acting fairly, that they're being maybe discriminated, that there's just these red flags or, start going up. And that's when they start looking online for help with claims. And that's when they find a public adjuster.
So how do you handle those claims kind of midway, if they're working with somebody else and all of a sudden they decide, oh, it's not working for me, or I'm not going to get the full benefit of this claim. So if they reach out to at that time, how do you handle those kind of cases?
Same way we do when we start from the beginning, except now it's going to take a little bit longer, right? Because we're working from behind. The insurance already has, for example, they have 6 months of information, photos and every communication. So we're coming in trying to investigate, first of all, what's happened, put our estimate together, put all our content, put everything together, build a package and investigate at the same time. So all it does, it just takes longer. And then usually in those instances, our company charges a higher fee if we come in the back end. And usually that's on the amount of anything extra we get. So if the insured was offered a certain amount, we wouldn't charge on that. We would only charge on anything extra we would get for our clients.
How do public adjusters charge their fees, or what the fee structure look like for you guys?
Right. So it usually starts with, it's a contingency, right? So it'd be contingency. It's usually a standard fee for a company is 10% and goes up from there. And that's paid once the claim is paid, right? So there is no retainers or any extra money. It's, hey, once we get the claim settled for you and you get a check in your hand, that's when you pay a public adjuster. That's how most public adjusters do it. And then again, now there's instances where you would call us and you got an amount and we look over the claim and say, well, we know there's a lot more money or a lot more to get you here. So we would we would charge a higher fee based only on the amount we would recover above what you already received. So the insured can't lose in that situation. They already got this much. Anything else is just extra.
So what or did you have any situation where you didn't get paid what the client was looking for? What happens in that case?
Out of 20 claims, one's going to come in where we go back and forth and just, we can't do anything about it. That's when that might have to go to an attorney. We present it to an attorney. We only take claims if we know it's a legit, everything checks out, right? The insured is okay, because if an insured calls and he's kind of suspicious or he's trying not to tell us something, and we could feel that out right away, we won't take that as a client. So we want to check all our boxes, that we know that we're fighting a good cause, that we're fighting and we have value to bring to our client. And like I said, maybe 1 out of 20 is going to go to a third party, whether it's appraisal, there's another clause there for appraisal, or an attorney, just because we can't take it any further.
So Andy, share one good story with me for a claim adjustment, which worked or didn't work both ways.
Correct. I'll share one of my favorites. This one's from a couple of years ago. It's not the biggest claim. It's actually on the smaller side, but it was an investor that's very well known in the industry. Had a loss in, this is in Tennessee. He was denied because they said he didn't have sewer backup, or he didn't have the right coverage. We went in, proved that the loss was actually, they worded it incorrectly, and we got that loss overturned, the denial overturned, paid the claim in full. Then he had a $5,000 deductible that we ended up getting, we actually got it waived. So then he got full our estimate, no deductible, and got everything paid up front. So.
And wow. So how did you do that? What kind of efforts?
The loss, the way it was denied, I kind of knew. We knew why it was denied, and we knew it was reading the documents he had from the plumber, from the insurance company. We knew that they had the wrong basis for a denial. And then the deductible, you can actually move that deductible. He had a mold endorsement, which was like, I think 10,000, which we reached. We were way over that. So we ended up moving the deductible from the main coverage into that endorsement and getting it waived. So he didn't have to pay anything, no deductible.
So you said the way it was wrong to begin with, right? So what were the KPIs right there? Some indicators for you?
They worded it as sewer backup. When we saw the plumber report, the plumber said there was something stuck in the drain. So then the water can run. So the water was backing up. So the insurance company sees that word backup. You don't have coverage for it. But that backup was caused by a clog. Well, a clog is a covered loss. They actually read the full plumber report. And we got another plumber to verify and got that whole thing overturned.
Wow, awesome.
So the amount, again, I think this claim was around 70 or 80. So it wasn't large for our scale. But again, it was a good client of ours. But it was a cool victory, especially since he was denied. It was everything that worked out really well in that one.
That's good. So I think one last question I wanted to ask you is there something that I'm forgetting to ask you, or you wanted to, I do not have enough knowledge to ask you about?
Vinki, I think you asked all the right questions. The only other advice I would have, or any other tips, is, don't get hung up on paying a fee to someone, whether it's a public solicitor or a good accountant or a good attorney, because the value you get, even with a good attorney or someone that protects your assets, it's worth every penny. Good insurance, good premiums, pay a little bit more and build that team if you're really going to grow. Big investors aren't worried about paying a PA or paying anyone else a fee, right? They've scaled so large for a reason. It's because they've built the team. And they're not worried about, let me go work on this fire and deal with it with the insurance company. They're worried about buying the next properties. That's all they're worried about. So
that's true. That's waste of time, and that's waste of money. Time is money. Awesome. So share one golden nugget with my audience regarding the claim adjustment, how they can make it better for themselves.
Yeah, besides hiring a public adjuster,
I'll hire you.
Correct.
Hire me. That's it.
Don't hire me. Hire any other PA that's good. Just hire one. But the less you say, the better. People talk too much, and it's the honest. It's talking too much about a claim is what gets people delayed or denied in claim, because they just want to be too honest. They just want to say everything that's going on. The insurance company is listening, recording everything, and it's throwing red flags. Those red flags are going to go up. Now you're getting delayed. Now you're going under investigation because all you were trying to do is be honest. And literally all we see is clients that were just trying to be honest get denied or underpaid.
That's a really good advice. I think in general to talk less.
I think so. People should listen more.
Listen more.
Correct.
I think you learn more when you listen more. And I learned a lot from you today. Thank you so much. So let's move on to our rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you 5 questions, spontaneous. You're going to answer in 1 word or 1 sentence only. Are you ready?
Yeah, of course. I don't have a choice, right? I can't say no.
No, it's too late. What is the one most important thing that you have learned in your life? And how did it change your life after learning it?
Education. Education outside of school. And learning on my own and reading books, and just that continuing growth that education brings.
I like that. It's like creating your own experience, right?
Correct.
That's a first-hand knowledge, I would say.
I think people after school just stop educating themselves and just kind of blend in with everyone else and stop growing. So
I like that. What is one best book that you've read and recommend to my audience?
oh, that's the last one. I have so many good ones. One of my all-time favorites is The Alchemist.
Oh, that's a good one. I have that one too, actually.
I can read that. Yeah, I can read that a couple of times a year. That one's one of my favorites.
I don't know. Funny thing is, every time you read it, you get something else out of it.
Yeah,
And that's what
I keep highlighting. The more I read, the more I highlight it. So soon it's going to be just all yellow.
That's true. Understanding things every time you read it. In one word, what does life mean to you?
In one word, what is life? Love. I would say love.
That's good. What is your biggest passion?
Family. My kids.
Like that. If you could turn back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself and why?
If I could go back in time and tell myself something, I would tell myself what the lotto numbers are.
That's a good one. I like that. How can people reach out to you, Andy?
They can go on our website at allcityadjusting.com. They can Google All City Adjusting. They can Google my name, Andy Gurczak, and they could call us. And for your listeners, I'll leave you with my cell phone, which is they can directly text me or call me anytime if they have questions. That's usually the best way. And my phone number is 708-655-4186. That's literally directly my cell phone for all your listeners if they ever want to reach me directly.
Thank you so much. And we'll make sure we add that into the show notes. Thanks for being with me today, Andy. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Vinki, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Of course.